So here we have some front rims from early wheel horse garden tractors. And this is the style of rim you find on the 1958 or 1959 wheel horse. And sometimes newer, up to 1962 maybe. Now if they come from an early style tractor with the engine back between your legs, then they would have had calcium chloride in the front inner tubes to add weight to the front of the tractor. So after several years, the calcium chloride would eat through the valve stem from the inside, and it leaks out onto the rim, causes the rim to rust out anywhere the liquid touched it, basically. So I got these 4 rims here. These are the 4 worst that I have in my pile. I don't have enough material in the donor rim to fix these, so I need a new donor rim. So I got to clean up all these and make sure I'm picking the worst one, and that's the one I'm going to cut up. Alright, I got the bushings removed from the center of these 2 and got all the grease out of there. So this one's been degreased, so the back's not black anymore. Now, to prevent all of the paint flakes and stuff from ending up in the sandblaster, I scrape them and wire wheel them next. I scraped on this a little while and wire brushed it. There's a lot of stuff on the front still. This paint's fairly hard to get off. The paint came off pretty easy on the back, so that's going to reduce the amount of crap that ends up in my sandblaster. So, if it takes too much work, it's not really worth it. You're trying to weigh out how much work it is cleaning out the sandblaster versus scraping the stuff off. So now we're looking at the hole down there. So there's still some raised areas. There's still some bumps right there, and anytime you can see where it looks like there's a layer on top of the original surface, that has to come off of there. That means the metal has already separated. So one thing I use is my welding slag hammer. So I'm going to knock off some of these high spots, because that's all got to come out of there. This is what it looks like after I'm done hammering on it. So you see there's a new hole down here now, and a number of low areas. So I got all the big chunks off, so I think I'm ready to go into the sandblaster. Alright, this one that had all the paint and grease on it has just come out of the sandblaster. Backside is really nice. And here we see a lot more craters than you could tell before. Quite a bit of pitting around the backside there too, around the inside. Well, I just finished sandblasting this rim. It has no through holes. Might be the best one out of the batch. I got another one out of the sandblaster. get a look at it before I put primer on it. Back's in perfect shape like usual. There is some pits along the rim of this one on the inside there. So wherever the calcium finds its way, there's some pits around the inside of the hole. Alright, I got them all cleaned up, and that's white primer on there just to keep them from rusting. So this is the one that was painted previously. It's actually the worst one. So it'll probably be the donor when I need it. So I'm going to choose to do this one first because it has the smallest area to take out. And I still have enough material in that old rim over there to get the job done. What are you doing, Jake? I thought I already wrestled you once. Alright, so I need to cut the bad part out of this rim here. So I'm going to make some lines across here. I'm using the machinist center finder. Alright, here's the donor rim. And I need to cut a piece this big out of there. So since this is on a radius, you can get an idea of what you need. Put that on the outside, mark it. Put this on the inside and mark it. And the actual size of this piece is somewhere halfway in between them two lines right there, if you was able to line them up properly. And that looks about right if you eyeball it that way. So now you have the thickness of the cutter blade to take into account. So that's going to take you over almost to this mark over here. So I'm going to cut it right about there and see how close we are. Alright, there's the new piece. It's a little bit bigger than the old piece, which is what we wanted. So it's a little bit oversized right now. So I'll need to deburr all this and then grind her down to fit in there properly. Alright, well, after I got this piece cleaned up, it's a little bit thinner than I thought it was right there. There's actually some through holes right there, some little holes. So don't like that. I'm going to cut me a new piece. So this is my donor rim. And I can get a pretty good section right there. Alright, I got this piece fit in there pretty well. It looks a lot better than the other one. There's no thin spots. Alright, it's back to the sandblaster. Alright, I think I'm ready to weld this in here now. So the critical part is making sure you get it in the right place. Since this piece came from a different rim, it's not going to be exactly identical. The biggest difference that I normally find is how far this lip comes over the outside, because the way that lip is rolled on there, sometimes they come out a little bit farther on other rims. So that's the case here, of course. So if you eyeball the top of this rim, it's a little bit lower than the top of this, even though I have this bead surface lined up and also the sidewall surface lined up properly. It's just that this came from a rim that had a little more overhang. So once I get that in there, I'll have to grind the top of this down to match. So I'm going to tack it at the bottom in a few places. Take off my clamps, make sure I'm still happy. So you want to measure it in as many different ways as you can to make sure things are lined up. So another way to measure across the diameter here and make sure that's the same to the outside. And that'll help reassure you that you're actually have a circle and have this the right size. Another thing is to sight across the top surface here to make sure that that's not too high or too low. Help ensure that it's lined up properly in that direction. This is what it looks like after it's wire brushed. Looks pretty decent. Now I only welded up to the edge and I stopped there because it looks like this lip is rolled over a little bit less than what the original rim was. So before I finish welding up to these edges, I'm going to see if I can bend that over a little bit. And that's all it took right there. It improves it substantially. You can see the misalignment on this side pretty well. Okay, that looks pretty good there. So I'll go ahead and finish welding up to the edges then. hiccups again? Looks like it, huh? Yeah. Maybe that means you're ready to eat again. Yeah. Alright. Let's go see. Well, I had this clamped in the milling machine to drill that hole in there, and then the file was corrupted when it came out of my camera, so I don't have that. I actually put the hole in the good side of the rim, so my repaired area is over in this area. You can see some little holes down here, and part of the original rusted area that I did not replace. Didn't replace it down that far. A little bit of finished body work, I think, will be okay. It's a lot better than having rusted holes in your rim. Alright, that's it.